The words landed softly, almost politely, yet they struck my chest like a sudden gust through an open door. It was broad daylight, the kind that makes everything honest. And there I stood on a stone path lined with trimmed hedges, realizing how thin my safety net had become. I had counted coins in the sun that morning, felt their smallness in my palm, and now the calm statement about rent made time slow until I could hear my own breathing. What followed was not a bargain or a threat, but a question that rose from a place deeper than fear, a question about whether dignity could be paid forward into something better. If you believe in kindness and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Heartbeat Tales, because stories like this live and breathe on your belief. My name is Elias Cade, and until recently, my life had been a careful balancing act performed in daylight so no one would notice the wobble. I rented a small guest house behind a brick home where flowers bloomed even when the heat pressed down. The owner, Serafina Moore, kept the garden immaculate, her presence steady and unassuming. I worked mornings at a repair shop and afternoons tutoring neighborhood kids, stacking hours like sandbags against a rising tide of bills. The daylight hours were forgiving, they let me pretend everything was manageable. But the truth surfaced with the sun at its highest, when exhaustion showed up uninvited and hope felt like something you borrowed rather than owned. Serafina's calmness made everything harder. There was no anger to push against, no harshness to rally courage, just a reminder that the world keeps its accounts. I had lost my father the previous winter, and with him the last place that felt like home. I carried grief like a second shadow, visible only when the light hit right. That afternoon, the garden smelled of cut grass and citrus, and I realized how much I had been hiding behind apologies that sounded responsible but changed nothing. I had always believed value was something proven by survival. Pay on time, show up early, don't ask for mercy. Yet standing there, I felt the limits of that belief. The question that formed inside me wasn't clever, it was desperate and sincere. What if there was a way to offer something better than money, something that acknowledged the debt without shrinking me further? I thought of the broken gate at the side of the house, the flickering lanterns along the path, the old shed that leaned like a tired story. I thought of how I fixed things for strangers who never learned my name, and how daylight work had taught me that care leaves fingerprints. Over the next weeks, I stopped negotiating with my fear and started answering it with effort. I repaired the gate so it swung without complaint. I rewired the lanterns so they glowed warm and steady as the sun dipped. I organized the shed, cleared the clutter, and painted the trim in the same blue as the summer sky. I tended the garden during the brightest hours, learning which plants needed shade and which thrived in full sun. Each task felt like a sentence written in action, explaining who I was when words failed. Serafina noticed, not with praise but with a quiet attentiveness that felt like respect. She left a basket of lemons on the steps one morning, then another with fresh bread. The balance between us shifted, not because the numbers changed, but because the space between us softened. Daylight kept revealing the truth. Dignity grows when it's used. I began sleeping better, waking with purpose, and the kids I tutored started staying longer, drawn by the calm that settled around the place. The real challenge arrived when the repair shop cut hours. Panic fled, bright and immediate, but it didn't consume me the way it once would have. I had learned that value isn't a single currency. I expanded my tutoring into the mornings, helped neighbors with small fixes, and earned referrals that carried my name like a promise. Serafina introduced me to a friend who needed help restoring a porch, and the work led to more daylight opportunities than I could have imagined. By late summer, the garden stood as proof that care compounds. I paid what I owed, fully and honestly, and more importantly, I felt whole doing it. The question I had asked myself weeks earlier no longer sounded like a gamble, it sounded like a principle. Give something better, and the world responds with room to breathe. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to engage with the video. Your likes, shares, and subscriptions help keep these stories alive for others who need them. Before the ending, a special request from the heart. Comment below with a time kindness changed your path, even when you had little to give. On a bright afternoon, I stood on the path again, the hedges trimmed, the lanterns glowing though the sun didn't need them. Daylight had taught me that second chances aren't granted. They're built, piece by careful piece, with hands willing to offer something better.